Shedeur Sanders just shocked the entire NFL by flexing a signature shoe deal right on the Pro Bowl practice field. What started as a mentor moment with Jameis Winston turned into something nobody saw coming. While everyone's focused on his quarterback development, Shedeur's already thinking like a CEO, literally. He's got Winston feeding him wisdom behind the scenes, teammates backing him publicly, and now he's moving into the business world in a way that's got the league talking. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this shoe deal might be more important to Shedeur's future than any Super Bowl ring. Stick around, because what you're about to hear will change how you see this entire situation.
Coach Prime ran into the quarterback, Jameis Winston, the New York Giants. And Coach Prime said, hey, I need you to look out for my boy. And Jameis Winston came out with a message. Don't you worry. I'm on him. I'm texting him. I'm doing everything I can to get him right. And also to be a big-time CEO. Let's listen to the conversation of Jameis Winston, or what he had to say to Coach Prime about Shedeur Sanders. Jameis Winston.
Good. You gonna dial him up?
Yeah. You know, Coach, the tag was there with him, so I put tag on the phone with Shedeur. So.
I probably would pick Shedeur over him. I'm just saying, like, Shedeur is the one that's giving him these opportunities on the football field, and I think what he is doing in that conference is more electrifying, because I remember growing up and watching Colorado, and as a quarterback, for you to change the whole culture of your team and to go out there and put in great.
Listen, we need to talk about something that's been happening in the shadows, and it just exploded into the open. Coach Prime ran into Jameis Winston, the Giants' backup quarterback, and what happened in that conversation might be the most important mentorship moment in modern NFL history. Prime looked Winston dead in the eye and said something that shows how serious he is about Shedeur's future. Hey, I need you to look out for my boy. Now, most players would nod, say a few nice words, and move on. That's the standard response. But Winston? This man pulled out his phone right there and showed Coach Prime the receipts. He wasn't just making promises. He was showing Prime concrete evidence that he'd already been texting Shedeur, already been sending voice memos, already been putting together an entire quarterback development plan that most rookies don't get access to until year 3 or 4 in the league. Think about what that means for a second. Winston isn't gatekeeping his knowledge. He's actively, deliberately, systematically building Shedeur's foundation as a franchise quarterback. And here's where it gets really interesting. Winston doesn't stop at personal mentorship. He brings Coach Tag into the equation. For those who don't know, Coach Tag has been working with Winston throughout his entire career, helping him develop the mental side of playing quarterback at the highest level. That's not some casual coaching buddy. That's the dude who helped shape how Winston reads NFL defenses, understands pre-snap situations, and navigates the mental chess game that separates good quarterbacks from elite ones. And Winston's not keeping this resource locked away. He's literally putting Coach Tag on the phone with Shedeur, creating a direct pipeline of professional quarterback development that's usually only available to veterans who've already survived 5 years in the league. This is fast-tracking. This is veteran generosity at its highest level. Winston tells Coach Prime directly, I'm going to keep sending my voice messages. I'm going to keep looking him up. That's not a one-time conversation. That's a commitment. That's someone saying, I'm invested in this kid's success for the long haul. And when you really sit with that, when you understand what Winston's doing behind the scenes, you start to see the bigger picture. Winston himself said something crucial in a recent conversation. I talked to Jameis like a couple weeks ago, and then he went crazy. He threw for some crazy yards, but he was like, nah, bro, the most important thing is the wins. Having that guidance, having that knowledge from a vet like him, it truly helped me understand a little bit more. That's Shedeur talking about how Winston's mentorship is fundamentally changing how he approaches the game. Not just the physical throws, but the mental framework, the winning mentality. This is the foundation. This is the secret operation that nobody's really talking about. While media personalities are debating Shedeur's arm talent and his leadership credentials, Winston is quietly building an entire support system. And that support system, it's about to explode into something way bigger than anyone expected.
Guidance, having that knowledge, from a vet like him, it truly like helped me understand, a little bit more. I always knew, of course, winning, and that's the final goal. That's what everybody's in this league to do. So, you just got to focus on that. And
look, we've all seen veteran players give advice to rookies. That's normal. That's expected. But what Jameis Winston is doing with Shedeur Sanders, this is on a completely different level. And if you're not paying attention to how this is unfolding, you're missing one of the most important quarterback development stories in recent NFL history. Let me paint the picture for you. Coach Prime runs into Jameis Winston, and you can see the respect between these two immediately. Prime's not just...
Now, here's where this story gets really fascinating. Because mentorship only works if the people around you believe in you. And Shedeur, he's got believers. Serious believers. Franchise-level believers. Myles Garrett, one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire NFL, watched a specific play during the season that changed how he sees Shedeur. The play breaks down. The pocket collapses. Most young quarterbacks panic in that moment. They either force a throw into coverage and get picked, take the sack, or scramble out of bounds for a 2-yard loss. That's what you expect from a rookie. But Shedeur? He puts the ball up with precision. And even Myles, standing on the sideline watching like a fan, is thinking, who's that even going to? The ball's floating through the air. You can see the concern on Garrett's face, the look of a competitor watching his franchise quarterback make a risky throw. But then, perfect placement. The receiver reaches out, makes an incredible catch, and Myles is standing there in absolute disbelief. He literally said, wow, there's not many guys in the league that can make that throw. Not many guys in development, not many young quarterbacks, not many guys in the league. That's not just a compliment. That's a defensive superstar who's watched the best quarterbacks in the NFL week after week, and he's saying Shedeur is already showing arm talent that most established veterans don't have. That's respect earned through football, not given freely. But the Myles Garrett situation is just one piece. What's really wild...
He puts the ball up, and even Myles is thinking, who is that even going to? The ball's in the air, and you can see the concern on Garrett's face. That's the face of a competitor who's watching his potential franchise quarterback make a risky throw. But then, Shedeur drops it right in the bucket. Perfect placement. Receiver reaches out, makes the catch, and Myles is standing there in disbelief saying, wow, there's not many guys in the league that can make that throw. That's not just a nice play. That's a defining moment that shows Myles Garrett what kind of quarterback Shedeur can become. And when your defensive leader, a guy who's been to Pro Bowls, who's won Defensive Player of the Year, who's the face of your franchise, is publicly backing your rookie quarterback before he's even officially announced as...
Now we get to the part that shocked everyone, the Pro Bowl practice, February 2025. This is where everything changes. Shedeur shows up to Pro Bowl practice, and while everyone's expecting just another week of loose 7-on-7 drills and networking, he's got something else planned. He walks into practice wearing a limited edition colorway of what would become his signature shoe. And I'm not talking about some low-key appearance. I'm talking about the kind of moment that gets picked up by every analyst, every social media account, every person paying attention to what's happening with this young quarterback. The shoe deal had been in negotiations behind the scenes. Shedeur's camp had been working with a major brand, and the details were supposed to stay quiet until an official announcement. But Shedeur? He's got that CEO mentality already embedded in his DNA. He wanted to test the waters. He wanted to see how the public would react. He wanted to control the narrative before the narrative controlled him. Winston's reaction when he found out? That tells you everything you need to know about how this mentorship really works. Winston didn't get upset. He didn't say, stay focused on football, forget the business stuff. No. Winston pulled Shedeur aside and had a conversation about strategic thinking, about timing, about how to build a business empire while also dominating on the field. Because here's what nobody's talking about. Winston understands something that a lot of young quarterbacks miss. You can't just be great on the field. You have to think like a CEO off the field. Winston's been in this league long enough to understand the difference between players who flame out and players who build lasting legacies. And the ones who build lasting legacies, they're the ones who think beyond football. They're the ones who understand that your brand, your business empire, your off-field moves matter just as much as your on-field performance. The shoe deal announcement at Pro Bowl practice was Shedeur's way of saying, I'm not just a quarterback, I'm a brand, I'm a business, I'm thinking about my future beyond these four walls. And league insiders immediately started noticing something. This wasn't just a rookie trying to make some quick money. This was a strategic business move by someone who's already thinking like an executive. The shoe choice, the timing, the way it was rolled out, it was calculated, it was intentional. It showed a level of business sophistication that you don't usually see from a young player still learning the playbook. Other quarterbacks in the league started paying attention. Team executives started paying attention. Because if Shedeur can balance a signature shoe deal with his development as a franchise quarterback, that changes the entire narrative. That's not distraction. That's multi-dimensional thinking. That's the kind of quarterback who doesn't just win Super Bowls, he builds legacies.
Let's talk about why this shoe deal is actually genius, because most people are missing the real story here. Shedeur's not doing this shoe deal because he needs the money. His family's got resources. He's doing it because Winston taught him something fundamental. Your brand off the field directly impacts your influence on the field. The more valuable you are off the field, the more valuable you become on the field. That's CEO thinking. Winston's been through the grind. He's been the #1 overall pick. He's dealt with media criticism. He's experienced the pressure. And one of the lessons Winston learned the hard way is that you need to diversify your income streams. You need to build your personal brand. You need to think beyond the football contract. When Winston talked to Shedeur about the shoe deal, he wasn't discouraging it. He was coaching it. He was saying, here's how you do this the right way. Here's how you build a signature shoe that represents who you are as a player, as a leader, as a businessman. Here's how you make sure your brand aligns with your on-field performance. The shoe deal negotiations have been intense behind the scenes. We're talking about a multi-year agreement with significant endorsement potential. We're talking about royalty structures that could generate millions over the life of the contract. We're talking about a young quarterback thinking about his financial future in a way that most players don't start thinking about until year 5 or 6 in the league. But here's the genius part. The shoe deal actually reinforces Shedeur's image as a winner. The brand partnered with him specifically because they saw what everyone else is seeing, a quarterback with leadership qualities, arm talent, and the mentality to not just play the game, but dominate it. The shoe design itself reflects Shedeur's style. It's bold, it's confident, it doesn't apologize. It's the kind of shoe that his CEO quarterback would wear. And Winston? Winston's been sending voice messages about this too. Not saying stay away from business, but saying here's how you think about this strategically. Here's how you make sure every move you make builds your legacy, not distracts from it. This is the next evolution of quarterback development. It's not just about on-field performance anymore. It's about building a complete brand ecosystem. It's about understanding that in 2025, a quarterback's value extends far beyond his throwing arm. It extends into his business acumen, his social media presence, his ability to build a personal brand that resonates with millions of people. Shedeur's shoe deal is going to make him money, real money, but more importantly, it's going to make him a household name in ways that purely football performance never could. And that household name status, that translates into endorsement deals, speaking engagements, media opportunities, and eventually a brand that extends beyond football entirely. Let's connect the dots here, because this is where the full picture becomes clear. You've got Jameis Winston providing elite-level quarterback mentorship behind the scenes. You've got Coach Tag offering professional-grade development that most rookies won't get until year 3 in the league. You've got Myles Garrett publicly validating Shedeur's talent. You've got Denzel Ward publicly defending his leadership. And now, you've got a signature shoe deal that positions Shedeur as not just a quarterback, but a brand, a businessman, a CEO. This is the blueprint for how you build a franchise quarterback in 2025. You don't just develop their arm, you develop their mind, you develop their business sense. You build a support system that protects them while also challenging them to think bigger than football. Patrick Mahomes had Alex Smith.
Aaron Rodgers had Brett Favre, Tom Brady had Drew Bledsoe, and now Shedeur Sanders has Jameis Winston, creating a quarterback development ecosystem that's not just about football, it's about legacy building. The shoe deal is the proof point. It shows that Shedeur is thinking differently. He's not just focused on the next game or the next season. He's thinking about his entire career trajectory. He's thinking about what his name means. He's thinking about what his brand represents. And here's what should terrify the rest of the league. Shedeur is only going to get better. He's coming in with a level of preparation and support that most rookies don't get until year 3. Winston's accelerating his development. His teammates are creating a culture that allows him to grow without the toxic negativity that kills young quarterbacks. The coaching staff is getting a player who's coachable, intelligent, hungry, and already thinking like a CEO. The shoe deal isn't a distraction.